I'm Franciscanic. I'm just here covering the anti-fracking demonstration in Cardiff today. It's a problem that faces us all, so you know, got to fight the cause.
So when we're talking about unconventional gas, we need to frame the debate in terms of this monumental challenge of climate change. And under those circumstances, we come to the conclusion that these are immoral industries. Immoral because they all know the threat that climate change poses to people right around the planet. They know that wrenching more and more fossil fuels out of the planet can only make things worse. But the thirst for profit drives them nonetheless.
Witness the reaction in the Tory heartland around Balcombe. Fracking was fine when it was up in the desolate north, as the profits being made would boost their dividend payouts and pension funds. But bring it to their doorstep and all of a sudden it is their water turning shades of green and black. It is their health being threatened. It is their leisure and tourism and agriculture being ruined. And perhaps most tellingly of all for fans of capitalism, it's the value of their prized capital assets, their property, that's being decimated and made unsellable. This is why they have welcomed us with open arms when we visit the Balcombe camp and recognise the sacrifices being made by people like Francis Frack and Caroline Lucas in risking their liberty for the cause.
By saying, in my opinion, fracking is as stupid as when my husband, who was bored one day, actually set light to one of his farts and burnt his bum. Right? It's that stupid. But for me, the most important thing I want to say today is who should have the right to decide whether we have this fracking thing going on in Wales. We have. It's the people of Wales, the people who live here. We are sick to death in Wales of having, over the centuries, outside people coming in, exploiting our resources and taking all the monetary value of those resources out with them.
We know the industry. Let's take the example of earthquakes. The industry has been dismissing earthquakes as minor. Oh, they won't do any damage to your houses. The problem with earthquakes, in the first place, is they crack open the pipes which they build to extract the fluid, to extract the gas. Those pipes crack open. We've had a case where Quadrilla's own pipe was cracked. They are supposed to, under the regulation, disclose that to the Environment Agency. They failed to do it for weeks. This is an industry that's supposed to be well controlled and well behaved.
Is it possible to use unconventional gas and keep our climate promises to the global community? We'll see how these dirty, polluting industries stack up when they're pitted against the will of every single community that's had the misfortune to attract their interest. A moratorium, as Bulgaria has done, as France has done, as Ireland has done, and as the Czech Republic is intending to do as from next month. And that's why we've gathered here today, to ask of our Assembly members, act on our behalf, execute a moratorium on fracking here in Wales.
I disagree with the Energy Minister in terms of his commitment to fracking. I think there are real dangers and concerns about that process, and I think we need to have a precautionary approach to this before we commit to carrying out a fracking process anywhere in South Wales or in the Welsh coal fields. In my view, we do need to have that moratorium. We need to do more study and research before we go ahead and extract gas in the ways which the fracking process requires of that.
Yeah, we can take an alternative approach to the UK government here in Wales. We have got a policy of sustainability which should enshrine everything we do, but we know when we've seen previous organisations campaign with regards to open cast mining, for example. This flies in the face of sustainability here in Wales, and I think that we really need to be looking at alternatives. I can't sit, it doesn't sit comfortably with me to define this particular fracking or underground coal gasification as sustainable, and I think that if we want to show Wales in a different light, then we really do need to get to grips with that.
So here we have voters from the left and the right finding common ground in opposing fracking, and we even have Conservative AMs championing the precautionary principle if we're to believe Suvi Davis if she comes out later. What a pity they're in opposition, I bet she hopes we think. Which leaves us to consider the middle ground of the political landscape, and for that we need look no further than over my shoulder. This is of course crediting Carwyn and his mates with not quite being the red Tories we see in Westminster, but where has been the leadership the Welsh people deserve on this issue?
The regulator, how are they? Well, the Environment Agency we have in Wales, it's called Natural Resources Wales, told us they don't regulate. There you are, the regulator, strict regulation. Well, they tell us they don't regulate this fracking or drilling. They do only enforcement when the pollution occurs after the event.
So I'm happy to come here today and offer my support to this demonstration and offer my support on behalf of the Welsh Liberal Democrat Assembly members in the Senate to say to the Welsh Government that they need to act and they need to be talking to the UK Government and they need to be putting that moratorium into place in Wales so that we can get proper understanding of what this process means and how it can be taken forward, if at all. In my view, it is not a way forward in terms of generating energy. We need to look at alternatives, more sustainable, greener alternatives to generating our...
I have applications in my area, in Gower, and we are working hard to find out exactly what the companies there are seeking to do. We know that there are many former mine shafts, mining areas in South Wales that have been untouched and are untouched for a reason, because they are dangerous underground, and that would be one of my main concerns. We simply do not have the plans underground to see where these former coal mines are, and I think that's something that the Welsh Government must take very, very seriously here in Wales.
Just wanted to find out if there's anybody here who hasn't signed our petition yet. We've already handed in over 700 signatures to Beth and Jenkins earlier, and with what we've been gathering here, we've probably got about 1,000 people on the petition. Just to let you know, this is just the beginning. This is not the end of the petition. This is just the beginning of it. This initial handing in was just to kickstart the process of getting an official Assembly petition onto their website that can go Wales-wide.
The latest research coming out of the London School of Economics tells us that we have to leave between 60 and 80% of current known reserves in the ground if we are to stand a chance of avoiding catastrophic climate change. Wake up, Carwyn. The very last thing we need is to keep looking for ever more extreme forms of fossil fuels.
Our Natural Resources Wales is quite ignorant in their responses. They didn't know that test drilling means stimulation of the gas to see if it will come out, stimulation of the strata with chemicals and with a bit of sand put in with the fluid. They didn't even know that. They didn't read the application properly, so they didn't know what was happening. They're ignorant here in Wales that the well casings crack. 75% of well casings have been known to be cut a fracture. Depends on the period and depends on the geology.
If we had proper leadership here in Wales, we could be at the very forefront of the world's low-carbon economies, given the staggering potential for renewable energy we have here in Wales. Not just wind and solar, but ground source heating and biogas potential that would allow us to heat our homes a lot cheaper and safer than using shale gas. And not forgetting the near criminal waste of the second highest tidal range in the entire world rushing past our doors as regular as clockwork just over there.
The Iverson well, drilled in 2010, illustrates the fracking process. The well plunges nearly 2 miles down, with cement and steel casing inserted to prevent leaks into groundwater. The well curves when it reaches the Balcombe, layers of shale that sandwich a layer of sandstone. The pipe follows the sandstone because that's where shale oil collects. Fracking begins by forcing plastic balls down the well. The balls open sleeves in the pipe to expose holes. Fluid is then pumped down the well under extremely high pressure. The fluid shoots through the holes and fractures the rock. Over the course of 3 days, this well fracked the rock 29 times. The bursts show where fissures were created. Once fracking is done, oil is released and flows up the well. The used fluid, which contains toxic materials, flows up with the oil. Some of the fluid is recycled. The rest is pumped into disposal wells deep below groundwater. The long-term environmental effects of fracking are unknown.
Oh, David Cameron, the leader of UK. Oh, David Cameron, don't trust a word he'll say. Oh, David Cameron, he'll steal most of your pay. He'll do away with human rights, 'cause that's the Tory way. Bedroom tax and council tax and war upon the poor. They'll strip the shirt right off your back.
Potentially, it's a huge opportunity to cut people's energy bills and to reduce the cost of energy for business. That's what's happened in the United States, and the purpose of exploration is to find out whether we really can get it to the surface as cheaply and as easily as they've done in the United States.
Cameron, the leader of UK. Oh, David Cameron, your cash will go astray. Oh, David Cameron, our country he'll betray. His greed does not discriminate to ethnic, poor or gay. Here, quiet in the house now, quiet in the house. Rhubarb, rhubarb, yes.
Here, rhubarb, rhubarb, rhubarb. Fuck the poor, fuck the poor. Tax it, tax it, tax it. Fuck the poor, tax it. Rhubarb, rhubarb, rhubarb. Here. They even claim the scrounging bastards.
Oh, David Cameron, the scourge of
the UK government has given the green light to a company to go ahead and frack, and has disregarded all the warnings that fracking present a serious threat to our environment. And all the companies that will obtain permits, because the people will prevail. Our voices will prevail. We can stand together. We can defeat them. And we must send a clear message to the UK government that we will remember, because this is done against our will. Because Mr. Osborne is trying to fool us by telling us that this will bring the price of energy, that this will bring jobs, that this will bring this will be a panacea for the country. What he's not telling us is that this will be a fracking nightmare.
I live 4 miles away. I started Frack Free Sussex, and I've been shouting about it as loudly as I possibly can on social media. We've been writing to the Environment Agency. We've given up on petitions long since. I've knocked on the door of number 10. They are not listening. The Environment Agency held a lip service public consultation about the mining waste permit. They got 900 detailed, articulate responses as to why they shouldn't issue it. 3 days later, they issued it regardless, citing low public interest. I personally have given up on the legislatory process. These people here that Ian's spoken about, their oath is to protect life and property. Yes. The main London to Brighton railway line is right there. This company is inept. They are cowboys. They have a 50% failure rate in Lancashire. They damaged 2 of their 4 wells. They continued to frack a damaged well and didn't inform anyone. We don't know what's happened down there or what they've left down there. They've been censured by the Advertising Standards Authority for lying in their leaflets to residents. They've just been done for trespass. It's just been announced now with their seismic monitoring on people's land. They continued drilling beyond their permissions, flouting the regulations that are supposed to protect overwintering birds. This bore is less than a mile from the river and the reservoir. It's 2.5 miles from the Millennium Seed Bank. Many of our ministers and our MPs have got this line: there is no evidence of any harm. There's no evidence, there's never been a case of contamination. Okay? If anybody is still doubting that, Google something called List of the Harmed. It's by the Pennsylvania Clean Air and Water Alliance, and there are up to probably more now, 1,500 families, and these are just the ones who've dared to speak out because they've signed non-disclosure agreements about the neurological problems in their children, the cancers, the silicosis in their lungs. The workers are getting silicosis in their lungs from the sand, from the silica sand. In Australia, the coal seam gas industry, which is coal bed methane here, which is already happening in Scotland and they want to do in Somerset, and it also involves fracking. People are really, really ill. Livestock's dying. I've seen film of cats' eyes bleeding. This isn't melodrama. This isn't swivel-eyed, eco-loon, new age nonsense. This is real. It is an ecocidal technology, and it's a juggernaut that our government is trying to force through. David Cameron, in an EU summit in Brussels about 3 weeks ago, said no regulation must get in the way of shale gas exploitation in Europe. What mania is this? What is this political mania that makes him, George Osborne, Peter Lilly, Boris Johnson, excuse me while I spit,
self-serving,
lie to us? Lie to us. They're either misinformed or they're willfully lying. And something is very, very wrong here. I was brought up to trust this system, to trust the political system, to trust the police. I'm a nice white middle class girl, went to a school in London, and it's all fine and we have a democracy. We do not have a democracy. These people are being made, these people in these uniforms who've got very dangerous technology on their shoulders that's hurting them, are being made to physically force through these lorries containing hydrochloric acid, huge, horrible drill bits that are violating our earth. They're supposed to be protecting us. Something's very, very wrong. We have to wake up and smell the methane now. At what point, my question is, and I've never done anything unlawful, I've done everything I can, from going to number 10 to signing petitions. At what point do we claim self-defence?
No. Now. Now.
He'll steal most of your pay. He'll do away with
Gagging law is a plan by the government to hugely increase the rules and restrictions on community groups, charities, campaigners, on what they can say for the year before any election, which would, because there are quite a few elections, would mean a lot of the time.
We all feel that this is an attack on democracy and our right to speak out on some of the most important issues facing the country and the planet.
The lobbying bill aims to restrict third-party groups for campaigning for any party or any policy. I don't think it's very democratic. In a free society, groups should be able to come together and lobby and campaign as they wish. This bill restricts their freedom to do that. It's not quite like Putin's Russia, but it's heading in that direction.
Countries in decay, blame it all up on the poor, 'cause that's the Tory way.
who have spoken to us today, and everybody who's spoken, but also especially the ones that have gone across party lines to speak out against this, because we all know the dangers of fracking. It's now well publicised. But one thing I do want to say is, I think it's an absolute shame that the state has decided to prosecute the people at Balcombe, because we are standing up for what we believe in. We know that these practices are dangerous. We know that they are going to destroy the environment for our children's future. So we need to be able to stand up and say no, because we do not want this here. And I think we need guarantees from the government that the police and the taxpayer is not going to pick up the bill for any more protests, because it ran at 4 million for Balcombe. You know, this is not sustainable in a tax sense. So basically, that's all I really wanted to say today. Is thank you for everybody who's come and supported this. I think it's fantastic. Well done. Thank you for bringing the bike as well. Cheers.
Need more volunteers for Frack Free Wales, so get in touch. We have got a Facebook group, Frack Free Wales. You can find us on Facebook, or there's also a website, frackfreewales.org, so get in touch.
I'm your host, Fritz Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.